Northerners rely on cash for transactions. Arewa Forum rejects Central Bank of Nigeria's withdrawal limit policy. The policy is expected to take effect nationwide from January 9th, 2023. Pan-Northern Nigeria Group, the Arewa Consultative Forum, has kicked against the implementation of Central Bank of Nigeria policy on cash withdrawal limit, saying it will result in the catastrophic collapse of the informal sector. The CBN had directed deposit money banks and other financial institutions to ensure that weekly over-the-counter cash withdrawals by individuals and corporate entities do not exceed 100,000 naira and 500,000 naira, respectively. The policy is expected to take effect nationwide from January 9th, 2023. In a statement on Friday in Kaduna State, ACF said the CBN may have had the best of intentions while initiating the policy, but failed to consider its extreme consequences for the informal sector. The statement, signed by Murtala Aliyu, Secretary General of the Forum, said the policy was well justified since cash-based economies were notoriously costly, inefficient, and prone to attacks by evil people. The ACF described the policy as unrealistic, saying cash remained the major medium of exchange for most Nigerians, particularly those in the north. Okay, I think more than anything, again, trying to break this down is literally trying to break down your brain cells. Okay, point is, if anything, this just reflects, if you put it as this, like if you put it as, okay, there's a race to development, we have not even started. I mean, you have the world literally moving to a cashless system. I mean, they did that like 15 years ago, and there's no excuse. If sometimes you want to talk about development and say, developed countries, but you look at Kenya, and when it comes to contactless payments and payments through phone, I mean, Kenya, yes, was literally, I guess, the lab to even test that. And right now, in our own continent, you have individuals that can literally send payments on their phone so easily. And then you are describing that an informal sector, in the north, the reliance of cash, it is such a problem. And it's obviously going to a cashless system, sometimes it's like we look at these ideals, but it also takes time to get to that. And so maybe we should not skip steps in development, because again, as the ACF said, which I think is even valid, is the fact that, listen, you have the best of intentions in introducing this, but we're so far in development that it's like two stupid gradients. You have skipped steps and you are trying to get somewhere. We haven't even talked about the, reliability of cash, the purchasing power of cash. Because let us be honest, why should you be withdrawing 100,000 naira? To be honest, if you had higher purchasing power, if you don't have a system of, printing money, and not even by individuals, and we're talking about, people in power printing money and, money laundering being such a thing in the country, we are so behind. So it's not even a thing of, let's, put withdrawal limits. Put out the question to politicians who are out here withdrawing, endless amounts of cash, and then inflation arises as a result of that. You have lower purchasing power. Then it means that what you can buy for 5,000 naira, you buy for 10,000 naira, which means if you're using cash, you have to print even more. These are issues that we need to fix first. Then we can talk about having a cashless system. And as I said, if we're going to make development a race, it's like we have not even started, and you want to be not even at the finish line, but even trying to make 10 steps ahead. No, you're trying to take 10 steps ahead, but realistically you are minus 30 steps back. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense, because even if you take that one step ahead to that where you want to go, you will then go even backwards in trying to fix the problems. Listen, it's like a math equation. If you do not go through every line or sequence of your equations to working something out, if a mistake is made once at some point, your final answer will be wrong. And then you'd waste even more time going back to find out where the mistake is and then doing it again. So you might as well go through the process patiently of development, deal with issues of purchasing power, inflation, corruption, why we print out money uselessly, to be honest, efficient use of money, the value attached to money, the societal view and collective view on how to use money. These are issues that we need to talk about first before then going to a cashless system, because you already have a system that cannot even use cash efficiently. So why why would you want to move to a cashless system and you cannot even use your cash well? That is a problem. That is such a massive problem. And of course, it's like, yes, as a country, as a collective, we can say we're not as developed. But then when you zoom in and you go on a micro level, you even find that we are so divided that as a collective, you have different measures of development at different areas or regions of the country. So to be honest, yes, you can say this, can say that in the north, there's a dependence on cash as a medium for exchange and transactions and the business dealings. But if you compare to the south, not that we don't depend on cash, but again, the dependence isn't as high. So you also have a contrast with, within a country, it's not a uniform, it's not a uniform type of development, or it's like you have a development here and then there and there. It's just so messed up. Everything is so messed up. So it is a problem. And I think, to be honest, what this reflects is we're just skipping, is too steep a gradient. There's so many issues. Again, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be implementing a cashless system. It could be so many things, ranging from education to even understanding and retaining our labor market, trying to prevent brain drain. We're so backwards that even what we learn in school in terms of, for example, let's say how do you make policies, monetary policies, fiscal policies, or educational policies, developmental policies. You want to make all these things, but then we're not taking into consideration our current state of accepting that we are so behind that we've got to work. Again, it's like we've got to work ahead. Again, I mean, having discussions with how the medical system even works, and for example, look at surgeons and just development and knowledge, the way of stitching that is here, and you compare that abroad. In Nigeria, we're discussing with several people, they say, if you've given birth, for example, given our medical system and how things work, you actually have to stay in hospital for longer for your treatment and for your healing process to be monitored, more than you can have an individual, a woman in a developed country who would give birth a day, 2 days later, she's out of the hospital. But here, it's so unheard of. And then, obviously, discuss with more people who are more experienced, they say, actually, when it comes to even our medical practice and even going down to the type of stitching that we use, it's not as efficient, it has not improved so much, but it's not a thing where Nigerian doctors don't learn this knowledge, they just cannot apply it to their system. So there's so many things, as I say, I use this example to make the point that, yes, there's good intentions in terms of, okay, fine, we want to develop, we want to eradicate this issue, but it's like we also have to take into account that the knowledge that we have and the way we are choosing to implement is not considering or taking into account our current state. And so trying to implement, policies that are ahead of us, literally, you're implementing something that is so ahead of you that, trying to make it applicable does not even make sense. You will go backwards and you will end up being frustrated. Anyways, to be honest, I feel like rather than, I've derailed from the conversation, but rather than talking about conversation with the CBN and the Arewa Consultative Forum and talking about the interactions, rather we actually talk about what the problem is: development. Put what you think about this in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.